It's 2024. We have smartphones. We have weather apps. You can literally check if it's going to rain while brushing your teeth. And yet, somehow, 24 people still walked into Namalu Cave in Thailand during the rainy season when the cave had been officially closed during the monsoon months during 2007. Why was it closed? Well, nothing major, just because on October 13th, 2007, 9 people went into that same cave and 8 of them drowned when a flash flood turned the tunnel into what only can be described as a high-pressure car wash. Here's what happened. A British tourist, Helena Carroll, and her boyfriend, John Cullen, were on the trip of a lifetime in Thailand. They decided to visit the Namalu Cave, a popular tourist spot. But here's the thing. The group was literally warned not to go in. Helena and John, along with several other tourists, including a Swiss family with teenage daughters, a young German boy, and 2 Thai guides, basically looked at each other and said, "Yeah, it'll be okay." Classic tourists. So they went in anyway. The cave seemed fine at first, pretty peaceful, exactly what they came for. But here's what they didn't understand. Namalu Cave is part of a drainage system that's crazy sensitive to rainfall upstream in the mountains. Even if it's not raining at the cave entrance, water from miles away can surge through the tunnels with almost no warning. And that's exactly what happened. Helena and the group were deep inside when the water level started rising. Panic broke out. People started screaming, getting pushed around by the current. Helena and John managed to climb a muddy slope toward higher ground. Eventually, they found a ledge, and for a moment, it felt like they were safe. Then John made a decision. He told Helena he was going to jump into the current, swim out, and bring back help. Helena begged him not to, but John was confident. He was a strong swimmer. He thought he could make it. She watched him climb into the raging water and disappear into the darkness while she stayed on that ledge, waiting, not knowing if anyone was alive, not knowing if rescue was coming. She waited there for 16 hours. When rescue teams finally reached her, she was the only survivor, and John and the other tourists didn't make it. Both guides drowned. So naturally, authorities were like, yeah, we should probably close this. They put up signs. They made it a seasonal closure from June to November. They told tour companies not to go. They did everything except hire someone to stand at the entrance with an air horn. Cut to August 6, 2024. 17 years later. Tour operators were like, the weather looks okay though, and took 22 tourists inside. And surprise, surprise, a flash flood hit. Everyone got out except one guide, who died trying to help others escape. Same cave, same warnings, same completely preventable outcome. This is honestly the equivalent of seeing a giant wet floor sign, ignoring it, slipping, getting hurt, and then coming back the next day and thinking, yeah, this time it'll be different. You already knew we were going to cover this. Let's talk about John Jones and the Nutty Putty Cave. On November 24th, 2009, John Jones, a 26-year-old medical student, went caving in Utah with his brother Josh and some friends. They were looking for a passage called the Birth Canal, which, first of all, terrible name. Immediately, no thank you. But John took a wrong turn and ended up in an unmapped passage. And here's where his brain said, you know what will be fun? Going headfirst into this narrow vertical crack. He got stuck, upside down, in a space that was 10 inches by 18 inches. For context, that's smaller than a standard piece of paper. This man, who was 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, was wedged in a crack the size of a shoebox for 27 hours. His brother Josh found him first, grabbed his ankles, and tried to pull him out. Every inch he gained immediately slipped back. That's when he knew it was serious. He had to leave his brother alone in the dark to get help. They sent in 137 rescue workers. They tried everything. Pulley systems, drilling. They even considered using vegetable oil to slide him out like he was a stuck ring on a finger. At one point, they actually got him moving up a few inches using a pulley system. Everyone got hopeful. Then the anchor broke, and he fell back into the crack. John started losing consciousness after that because when you're upside down for that long, blood pools in your head and your heart just can't. One rescuer said John started hallucinating, talking about seeing angels and demons around him. He eventually had a cardiac arrest and died. His wife Emily was at home waiting by the phone with her 1-year-old daughter. She was pregnant with her second child. And because getting him out would have required drilling for days and putting more rescuers in danger, they just sealed the cave with him in it. They used explosives to collapse the entrance and poured concrete over everything. Nutty Putty Cave is now John Jones's tomb. There's a memorial plaque at the sealed entrance. You literally cannot enter this cave anymore because there's a whole human being down there. And the wildest part? The cave had been temporarily closed in 2006 because officials knew someone was going to die in there. They reopened it in May 2009 with new safety rules. John died in November 2009. They couldn't keep it open for a full year without someone dying in the worst way possible. February 1965. 3 members of the Boston Grotto Club, which sounds fancy but is basically just a cave nerd club, decided to explore Schroeder's Pants Cave in New York. And contrary to what Ice Spice might suggest, pants are just not okay sometimes. The guy who discovered the cave, George Lyon, was like, "Hey, by the way, it's been freezing all week. There's a lot of ice-cold water pouring through the cave right now." And these 3 were like, "Sick, let's go." They worked their way through the cave until they got a vertical shaft that dropped about 80 feet. James decided to go first. He started rappelling down but got stuck part way. And here's where it gets absolutely horrible. There's freezing water pouring directly onto his head. 10 gallons a minute. His friends tried to pull him up for 45 minutes. They couldn't, so they went looking for help. When the rescue team arrived, Mitchell was already dead from hypothermia, but his body was stuck on the rope. They spent 3 days trying to widen the cave to get him out, but part of the shaft collapsed, and it was no longer safe to continue. So they sealed the cave with Mitchell still hanging there. They put explosives at the entrance, buried them under rocks, and installed a memorial headstone. Imagine being his family and knowing your son's just suspended in a cave forever. In 2002, a Croatian diver went diving alone in an underwater cave called Puganica Bay off the Croatian coast. When other divers found him 54 meters below the surface, he was dead. His diving mask was off, and there was a 12-inch knife buried in his chest. Police thought, murder, obviously. But the investigation revealed something way, way darker. The diver, identified as MK, had gone down alone. Maybe his equipment malfunctioned, maybe he got disoriented, maybe he took a wrong turn. Whatever happened, he just started drowning. And drowning in an underwater cave is about as terrifying as death gets. You're inhaling water, your lungs are burning, you're in total or near darkness. You can't tell which way is up. Your body is in full panic mode. And you know you're going to die slowly over the next few seconds while conscious. That's what MK was experiencing. So he made a choice. He took off his mask, pulled out the knife he carried, and stabbed himself in the chest. He chose a faster death over drowning. The police closed the case as a suicide. Medical examiners determined the stab wound was self-inflicted based on the angle and depth. February 2014. A group of Finnish cave divers decided to tackle Plurdalen Cave in Norway, also known as the Plura Cave System. This cave's so dangerous. It already killed people before, but they had rebreathers, training, and confidence. The plan was insane. Dive through a 420-foot deep underwater passage, go through an entire mountain, and surface in a drive cave chamber on the other side. It's like the world's worst water slide. One of the divers was Kai Kankinen. Remember this name because my man went through hell. Kai was swimming through the freezing underwater tunnel when he found his friend Jari Watarinen wedged in a narrow restriction. His rebreather had malfunctioned, and he had panicked, swallowed water, and choked to death in that tiny gap. Kai tried to help, but his friend was already gone. Then things got worse. Another diver, Jari Uzumaki, yes, also named Jari, started panicking from seeing his dead friend. He began breathing too fast, and that's the worst thing you can do with a rebreather. When you hyperventilate in a rebreather, you stop scrubbing the CO2 properly, and it just accumulates in your system until you basically poison yourself and pass out. It's called CO2 poisoning. It's a horrible way to go. Kai tried desperately to calm him down, but he failed. Jari Uzumaki died right there, too. So now Kai is alone, deep underwater, with 2 dead friends, and he has to make a choice. Keep going forward to the exit on the other side of the mountain, or turn back the way he came. He turned back, started swimming through the ice-cold water, trying to find the entry hole they'd cut through, but he couldn't find it. The hole had frozen over, or he had lost his bearings in the panic. He was trapped under a layer of ice with his air running out. So he broke through the ice with his bare hands and pulled himself out. By the time Kai surfaced, he had been underwater for 11 hours. The other divers in his group had made it through the other exit and survived. But Kai had to swim back through hell, see two of his friends die, get lost under ice, and literally punch through ice to breathe again. The Norwegian police immediately closed the cave and declared the bodies unreachable. But the surviving members were like, absolutely not. A few weeks later, they secretly organized a recovery mission against official orders and spent 100 hours diving back into that death trap just to bring their friends home. When they finally reached the spot where the Yaris died, they found them still in position. They extracted both bodies through some of the tightest underwater passages in the world and brought them back to the surface. This whole thing became a documentary called Diving into the Unknown, and it's more stressful than any horror movie because it's real. Oh, and by the way, if you're enjoying that video, smash that subscribe button right now. In August 1952, an international team of speleologists gathered in the Pyrenees Mountains in the France-Spain border for what they hoped would be a historic expedition. Their target? Gouffre de la Pierre Saint-Martin. I hope I pronounced that right, by the way. At the time, believed to be the deepest cave system in the world. Among the team was 28-year-old Marcel Lubans, a French engineer and passionate caver. He had been exploring caves since he was a teenager and had already discovered multiple cave systems in the Pyrenees. It was his dream to reach the bottom of the deepest cave system on Earth. The expedition started well. They descended and explored new passages. Lubans was having the time of his life. After nearly a week underground, around August 13th, it was time to head back up. The team on the surface started the manual winch system, and Lubans began his ascent. He was almost out, probably already thinking about the sandwich he was going to eat. Then, the cable clamp failed. Lubans fell about 15 meters back down the shaft and slammed into the rock slope at the bottom. The doctor immediately climbed down and tried everything he could. That's some Grey's Anatomy shit, but Lubans had fallen into a coma. There was no way to save him down there. The team faced an impossible situation. The winch that failed once could fail again. They had other people still down in the cave who needed to get out, and Lubans was unconscious, critically injured, and over 1,000 feet underground. For 36 hours, they stayed with him at the bottom of the shaft. But on August 14th, 1952, after 36 hours in a coma, Marcel Lubans died without ever regaining consciousness. His friends were devastated, but they had a bigger problem. They still had to get everyone else out safely using the same faulty winch. One by one, they repaired the cable as best as they could and got the remaining team members back on the surface over the next several days. Everyone made it out alive, except Lubans. He stayed there buried for 2 years before they finally managed to recover his body in 1954. June 24th, 1967. 6 young men from the University of Leeds went caving in Mosdale Caverns in North Yorkshire, England. These weren't randos. They were experienced cavers from the university's caving club. The weather forecast said rain was coming, but they went anyway. They entered around 10 a.m. on a Saturday. The plan was simple: explore the passages, have fun, be back by evening. Standard Saturday adventure. But while they were deep inside the cave system, a massive thunderstorm hit. And Mosdale Caverns has this thing where water from the surface drains directly into the cave system. So when that storm hit, the underground stream they'd been casually walking alongside turned into a flash flood. 6 men tried to escape, but they got trapped. They had no way out. A massive rescue operation started immediately. Over 100 cavers came from all over England to help. They worked for days trying to reach them, but the flooding was too severe. It took 10 days to recover the first body. The last body wasn't found until 6 weeks later. All 6 of them died from drowning. They were trapped in different parts of the cave, which means they all didn't die together. Some probably spent hours in the dark, knowing they were going to drown. This became the worst caving disaster in British history. 6 experienced cavers, dead, because they ignored a weather forecast. The cave is still open today, but nobody goes in when rain is predicted, ever. In 1984, Peter Verhulsel went cave diving with his friends in South Africa's Sterkfontein Caves, a massive underground system that had been around for millions of years. Peter was a strong swimmer and confident in the water. Maybe too confident. While his friends stayed on the marked path like normal people with survival instincts, Peter kept swimming off to explore different passages. Then he got lost. He tried to find his way back, but the cave system is a maze of underwater tunnels and chambers. After swimming through multiple passages, Peter found an island, like an actual patch of dry land inside a pitch-black underground cavern. He climbed onto it, probably thinking, okay, I'm safe. I can wait here. Someone will find me. But here's the problem. He had used up his oxygen tank swimming around. He couldn't swim back through these submerged tunnels without air. He was stuck on this island with no food, no light, no way out, and no way to signal for help. His friends realized he was missing and started searching. Rescue teams came in. They looked for days, but finding one person on one island in one chamber out of hundreds? Nearly impossible. Peter sat on that island in total darkness, waiting, hoping someone would find him. But nobody came. The days turned into weeks, but still, nobody came. He starved to death over the course of several weeks. When they finally found his body 6 weeks later, he had left notes to his mother and wife telling them that he loved them. He knew he was going to die there. He had time to write goodbye letters and just wait for death to come. You know the most disturbing part about cave deaths? It's usually slow. It's not like a car crash where it's over instantly. You have time. Time to think, regret, and feel every second ticking by. The people in these stories weren't stupid. They were experienced, prepared, and confident. But caves don't care about your resume. So the next time you see a cave closed sign, maybe just believe it. Maybe don't make rescue workers spend 27 hours trying to save you from your own decisions. Maybe don't become an episode of I Shouldn't Be Alive or a viral TikTok story. Stay safe, touch grass, and for the love of God, if you see a narrow hole in the ground that descends into darkness, maybe just keep walking. Ciao, ciao, subscribe now.